When I first heard of Notion, I thought that it would have me in my productivity bag. And then I decided to get my own account and I realized, wow, this is really overwhelming. But I really wanted to make it work. So I would spend hours watching tutorials and just creating pages that were really aesthetic, only to never go back to using them ever again. But I realized that I just needed to just step back and make things really simple. And that's where I developed this task list, which has become the foundation to all of the pages that I now create in Notion. So what was the criteria behind this task list and how was I actually able to start using it so that Notion could become more of a tool for me? For me, I had three main priorities. The first one being that I needed my task list to live in sync across multiple pages. I didn't want a completely separate task list for every part of my life. I needed one area where I could see everything while also be able to focus on specific areas when needed. Secondly, I wanted my priorities to be very clear. As soon as I open Notion, I want to know what immediately needs my attention. And I'm able to do that by setting a deadline as well as the priority for all of the tasks that I create. Lastly, I need my task list to be simple and adaptable. The issue that I was running into with the prior task list that I tried to create is that I didn't have the freedom to be super vague or very detailed without the list looking cluttered. Some tasks just need more structure while other things are literally just as simple as saying send an email. With this list, I could either just jot things down quickly or I could spend the time that I need to write very detailed notes without it affecting how the entire task list looks. Okay, so that is the thinking behind my task list. So let's take a look at how it actually works because it really is so simple. So this dashboard is where my main task list lives, and if I want to add a new task, I will just scroll to the bottom here and click new page. Next, I write the task. I input how much time I think this will take to complete. I set the priority, and you'll notice that the task jumped a little bit higher in the list because I have it ranked from high to low priority. Next, I select what area of life this applies to. And when I start or complete the task, I can update this status, but the default is not started. And then lastly, I will set the deadline, which I'll put to the end of this week. And that is literally it. Once I complete a task, I will change the status to done. Quick note, I like to keep my completed tasks on my list just so that I can see everything that I have done instead of it just being a never-ending list of all of the things that I need to do. When I'm writing notes on pen and paper, I physically cross it off the list and that's really satisfying. So when the status is changed to done, it highlights in green and that's my attempt of replicating that experience as much as possible. It makes me feel good and it works, so that's just the rationale behind that. And when I'm ready to remove the task off of my list completely, I'll simply click archive by checking this box here. So when I created this task list, I used it as is for a very long time, but then I decided to create different views so that I can access information in different ways. There's the priority view, there's the monthly view, there's the weekly view, and then also a view where I can reference all of my archived tasks. If I was on the go and I needed to write something down, I would simply just open Notion on my phone and click this button to quickly add a new task. From there, I could add all of the same information and I could also add notes to reference later, but this all gets synced automatically across all of my devices. Okay, so now that you know how to use a task list, let's get into actually building it. First, we are going to open a new page in Notion and create a title. We will call this task list. You don't need to create a new page. You can definitely add this task list to an existing one that you have. Next, I'm going to navigate to the top right corner and click this ellipsis to access settings that allow you to personalize the page. What I'll do here first is click full width just to make sure that I'm making the most of the available screen space. But within these settings, you could also modify the font size to make it smaller, or you could also change the font type. So we're going to use a database to create this task list, and a database is essentially like having a Excel spreadsheet embedded into your page. I'm going to just click directly under the title and hit / and type inline database. So it's probably going to show up as you are typing it, so you'll just click that there. Next, we're going to add a title to this database. I'm just gonna call it task list. Next, we're gonna go ahead and create different properties, and these properties are going to house the key information for each task. So if we click on the first one here, we're just gonna rename this to task, and then we're gonna click on the icon next to it and select the checkmark list. Next, I'll click on add property, and then click select. I'm gonna click on the property again and rename this one to duration. We're gonna click on the icon next to it and change it to a clock. And from there, I'll click on edit property and then add an option. So in this property, I'm going to add a bunch of different time options. So Notion is going to randomly choose a color as you populate this with different options. For this property specifically, I like to keep it all as one color. So I'm just gonna change the default to gray, but you can literally set this up in any way that you would like. So to create the next property, I'm going to click this plus icon again, and I'm gonna click select. Then I'll rename this one to priority and change the icon to these exclamation points. From there, I'm gonna go to edit property, add options, and I am going to add low, medium, and high. And I'm actually going to change these colors so that they actually represent low, medium, and high for me. Now to create the next property, we'll click the plus icon. You'll see a trend here. And this time we're gonna click multi-select. We're going to rename this to section. And I'm going to change the icon to an arrow. This arrow here, an arrow circle down, that's what it's called. So when I go to edit property and add option, this is where you are going to populate it with the different areas of your life that you're going to use this task list for. I'll add 3 options. So I'll do content creation, work, and school. You could always go back and add more options if you'd like, and this holds true to any of the properties that you create in Notion. So now we are going to add another property, and we will click on status. I'm personally not going to change the heading or icon because I like it. And if we look at edit property, these are the default statuses that Notion puts in for you. I like them, so I'm not going to change it. But next, what we're going to do is actually, if we hover over to the top of this database and click the settings emoji, we're going to navigate to conditional color and then click new color setting. And we're going to select status. So currently it says status is not empty, so that's what it's going to change the settings for, but we're gonna hover over is not empty and click is. And then we're gonna select complete or done. And then we're gonna make sure that the page background has match option there. So essentially what we just did is create the highlight. So when I change the status to done, it will highlight the task so that it's green. We're almost there. So next I'm going to click add property again, and we are going to select date. You can edit the property to change the date format, but I personally like the default. The only thing that I will change here is the title, and I'll change it to deadline. So we're just gonna add one more property, and I am going to click checkbox. I'm going to rename this checkbox to archive, And what I'll do is I'm going to actually bring this property heading in so much that you can only see the icon. And I'm going to move this up so it is the first property in this row. So honestly, we have completed a lot of the legwork for this task list because it is very simple. But what I'm gonna do is just add a new page so we can see how it's currently working. I'll just name this placeholder task. I'll set the duration, the priority we can choose the section, and you can choose multiple or you can just choose one. Because we clicked multi-select for this option, I'll put content creation, and I'll put the status as in progress, and I'll put the deadline as the end of this week. The first thing that I notice is that when I create this new task, you can see that there is this file emoji that populates on the task. I don't particularly like how that looks. And also when I open up this page, it's just very simple. And so I want to actually add a template here so that I can create notes. So to do that, what I'm gonna do is navigate to the top of the database and click this down arrow next to the new button. When I click this down arrow, I'm gonna select new template. So the first thing I'll do is just hover over the title and I'll click add icon. Here you can choose any icon that you would like. I personally am going to go to the icons heading and click minus because I want it to replicate a dash. Like if I were to write notes, I separate them by dashes. Next, I'm going to change the title and put new task in square brackets. And then for under here, I'm just gonna hit /H1 to create an H1 element or a heading element. And I'm going to write notes. And this way I know that I'm just gonna be writing my notes under here. And it is that simple. I've now created a template. But I want this to be my default every time I create a new task. So I'm just gonna click out of this window. I'm gonna go back to this down arrow here and I'm gonna click on the ellipsis under the new task template that we created, and we're gonna click set as default. And I'm gonna set this as a default for all the views in task list. So to test if this is working, we are going to click new page and we can see that it is working. The new task title has been populated, the dash icon is there, and when I click open, you can see that there is the notes there within the template. So the next thing that we have to configure is this archive option. As you can see, when I click this check mark, nothing happens, and we want that to change. So what I'm going to do is navigate to the top right of the database and click on filter. And then I am going to click archive because that is the property that we are targeting. And then from there, we're going to say when archive is unchecked, so we'll click unchecked, it is going to show on this view of the database. So I'm just going to click filter again to hide it. But now when I click on the archive button, it's not on this page anymore. But now the question is, where did this task go? If I ever wanted to reference it again, it's just gone in the abyss. And that is where different views in Notion come into play. So in order to create a new view, we're gonna hover next to the dashboard title and click the plus icon, and that's where we add a new view. I am just going to add another table view. And you can see that this view has just everything that the prior one had. I'm going to call this view archive, and I'm going to change the icon to a trash can. And from there, I'm going to go to the filter button and click archive again. And this time we're gonna isolate it. So if archive is checked, that is what is going to show on this page. So I'm gonna click filter again to hide it. But if I go over to our first view, you can see that the task that we had checked off before is not there, but if we go to archive, it is now there. I'm also going to click on this table view and rename it to all tasks. And I'm gonna change this icon to the checkmark list. So I'm just gonna populate this with some information so that as we continue to create more views, you'll be able to better see how it's working. So to add different views, I am just going to click the plus icon next to the views, and this time I'm going to click board. Automatically, Notion groups this by the status, and you could keep it like this by all means, but I personally want to categorize or group this by the priority. And so first I am going to name this new view, and I'm going to call it priority, and I'm going to change the icon to some exclamation points. So next I am going to go to group by, and you can see it's currently at status. We're gonna click on that and we'll click group by again. And this time I'm going to click priority. So as you can see, this is now grouped by priority, but I want to make this a little bit more tailored based off of the different sections of my life. So I'm gonna click the back button here, and then I'm going to select subgroup. And in the subgroup, I am going to click on section. And as you can see, now there is a subgroup that is within the priority. And so you can see that under content creation, I have this that is high priority, low priority tasks, and these are all the medium priority tasks. And of course, again, with Notion, it is so customizable. You can pick and choose to see how you would like to organize this, but this is how I like to do it for me personally. Next, we are going to click this plus button again, and we are going to create a calendar view. I personally have two, so the first one that we're gonna create is a monthly calendar. So we'll select calendar. It looks great as is, and you can leave it, but I am going to customize how the tasks look in each calendar day. So I'm gonna navigate up here to the settings icon, and then I'm going to click on property visibility. So for this calendar, what I personally want to see is the section of my life that this applies to. And I also want to see the status. And I want to see how long I think that this is going to take, so the duration. And from there, of course, you can see that all of these are automatically populating on the calendar. And you can also click on the ellipsis here so that you can change exactly how it is shown on the calendar. And that's what I really, really love about this view. So I'm gonna put the duration first, the section of my life second, and then the status last. Now, what I really love about having this calendar view is that I can just take any task and move it to the day that I would like, because I have a better view of what my week is going to look like or my month is going to look like. And if I realize that all of my tasks are due on one day and it's just unsustainable, I can easily just move them to a different day, and it just makes it easier for me to manage everything. So this is the calendar view, and I'm going to rename this to monthly calendar. So instead of creating a completely new view and starting from scratch, I'm going to right click on the monthly calendar view and duplicate it. And then I'm going to change the name to weekly here. And from there, we're gonna go to layout, and of course it's calendar, but then we're gonna go to show calendar as, and then we're gonna click week. And from there, it's the exact same view with the exact same settings that we had shown that we wanted to see, but it's just the 1 week, and I like to see it in a week view as well, so I don't feel overwhelmed by the month. Now, these are all of the views that I have created for myself, and of course you can move them around to your liking. The last part of the criteria for this task list for me is that it was easy for me to see the same information but isolated on different pages, and it is so easy to do that in Notion. So what you're gonna do is literally just hover over the database, and then you'll see this menu icon pop up on the side. You're gonna click on that and then click copy link. From there, you can create a completely new page, or you could add it to an existing one. And here is a page that I have created for learning. So what I'm going to do is literally just Command V and paste that link into this page. Notion will give you the option to select paste as, and then I'm gonna click linked database view. Because I only want to see the tasks that have to do with learning and school, I'm going to click on this filter and I'm going to click add filter or filter. And then I'm going to select section. And then from there, I'm going to check off school, and there you have it. Now I'm only seeing the tasks that have to do with school on this page. The great things that I love about this feature is because there is a filter on this database now, if I click on new page, that means that this section will auto-populate to school. Then I can add a task here. I'll say by calculator. If I go back to the original database that I created, I will now see that by calculator is there, so it syncs across all of my pages as well as any device that I log in. The next thing that I really like about being able to have this transferable across pages is that I don't have to show every single heading on this specific page. So for section, inevitably, everything is going to be in the school section. So I am just going to right click on this property, and then I'm gonna click hide. And now that gives me more space to see everything else. The very last thing that I am going to do is create a button. And I find buttons most useful for this task list when I am using Notion on my phone. So what I'm gonna do is just click enter above the title to add a line here. And then I'm gonna hit / and write button. So from there, I'm going to title this button add new task. And I'm going to change the icon to a plus. Next, what you're going to configure are the button settings. So when this button is clicked, what is going to happen? I want it to add a new page too, so we'll click on that. And we're gonna add a new page to this database that we created. And this database is called task list. Next, I'm going to click add action again, and I'm going to select open page form or URL. Then under this drop down, I'm going to click page added. So essentially what we're doing is when we click add new task, it's going to add a new task to that database, but also open up the page that was just created. So I'm gonna click done. And just so that we can test if it works, I'll click add new task. And there we go. It has opened up the page in the window. I can see the template, everything is there. And we could also see that this empty task is now added to the list. And there you have it, my task list that I use on a daily that genuinely helps me become productive in all of the tasks that I need to complete. I've been using Notion for about 3 to 4 years now, and this task list is the one thing that has stuck and that I've been able to iterate on to really help me in my productivity and keep track of everything that I need to do. If you make it to this point of the video, thank you. My name is Alexia, if I haven't said that already, which I think is kind of wild because I don't think I introduced myself yet. But at noxelledigital, we do all things productivity, and I am somebody that is extremely ambitious but continue to get stuck in the cycle of being burnt out. And I thoroughly believe that having tools like Notion or Excel or just any application that can help organize what you are doing eases the mental load so that you can focus on what actually matters. So If you would like to know more about that and that resonates with you, you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you could also sign up for my monthly newsletter. Who knows, you could probably get the behind the scenes look at a couple of things that are coming out, so you can do that if you want to. Anyways, I love exploring different things, and so there will be a lot more videos of this likeness coming out, and I appreciate you watching that. Also click that bell, the bell, so that you're notified every time I post, because I think it's kind of crazy that YouTube says subscribe but they won't notify if you don't click the bell. So click the bell, and that is it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.